Hey, good afternoon. It's Monday. It is our time to talk about all things profitable. My name is Dawn Clevisall. For those of you who don't know me, I have been in business for myself as a bookkeeper since 2007. I am passionate about helping you bring profit to your business and having a business that isn't making you poor. I have a lot of people over the years who have come to me because they finally decided to have a bookkeeper look at their books, and it's too late. They're coming out of desperation because they've gotten to this point where they just can't make it anymore. And unfortunately, I really hate to be the person that's just there to close out their books for their business. It's heart-wrenching. And so one of the things that I am passionate about, as I mentioned, is making sure that you have the tools at your disposal so that you can set your business up in a way that you're going to be profitable. So today I wanted to talk to you about the one big business mistake that's keeping you poor. Now, I am going live with StreamYard. I've mentioned this before, but what I decided to try to do was check out my Facebook group. I don't know if I can see the live on here. Let me just give it a quick click real quick. Well, I know I'm going live, but I don't really see. Oh, there I am. I don't know if it's going to let me see the comments. So anyway, I don't think I'm going to be able to look at comments on my phone like I was hoping I would. So if you are here, say hello. You might want to put your name when you comment because I'm not going to be able to see that until I log off, unless you've actually given StreamYard permission to view your information. So that's something that Facebook requires them to do. So if you're here, go ahead and give me a shout out, or put a thumbs up or something in the comments so that I know. And let's get started. Do you know what the one big business mistake that you're making? You might know. I mean, if you've been struggling, you probably have some idea that things aren't working, but maybe you don't know the exact reason why that is. Well, the number one mistake that you're making in business is you feel like you're doing everything right? But you're still don't have any money left at the end of the month. It's because you're following this old principle that we take our sales minus our expenses, and that equals our profit. That is how accountants do accounting. This is how we come up with the number at the end of the year that we tell you, hey, you made X amount of dollars. Congratulations. Here's your huge tax bill. That's where that number comes from. But this is not the equation that you want to use if you're running a profitable business. It's useful information, but we get what we focus on. So the system that we learned is totally broken. I want you to embrace the idea that we can do things differently, that we don't have to be stuck in an old thing. You're going to do your taxes that way, right? When you send your paperwork off to the CPA or your bookkeeper is doing your books, they're going to do it that way. But that's not how I want you to look at your business. So you're focusing on expenses, right? So sales minus expenses, it's right there in the very beginning of this equation. And that keeps you from focusing on your profit, your owner's pay, your tax payment money. So at the end of the year, you turn around and you owe this big tax bill, but you don't have the money. I know I've been stuck in that situation before. And what does that do to you? That makes you feel like, why am I even doing this? It makes you feel like, well, if I do well, I'm just going to owe more money. So what's the fun in that? Well, it's because you don't have a plan. So this is the recipe for staying poor in business, because this is the recipe, focusing on expenses. It's going to keep you reinvesting and throwing money into your business that is not helping you grow. It's going to be money that maybe this will work, maybe this will work, maybe this will work kind of thing. Or in other circumstances, you are putting money back into your business thinking that everything that you earn should go back in so that you can earn more. But then what you end up with is, when you are doing that, you end up with more expenses. So the expenses just kind of keep eating up any of the sales profit that you're bringing in. And then you end up with nothing for you. And you might be surprised that the one thing we do on day one is we take 3% away from your profit. So if you've been following the Profit First methodology at all, and that's the one that I teach in my courses, and I can tell you, it's a little scary for people when we do this, right? It's a little scary for me too. So the very first thing we're going to do is take money away from your operating expenses. But what we're doing is we're building in the safeguards to your business that are going to make you profitable. So we're adding 1% to each, to the profit, owner's pay, your tax account, right? And so this 3% comes from your operating expense account. It has to come from somewhere. We can't just assign those percentages to the new account without making this balance out to be 100%. So that's 100% of all of the real revenue that's coming in. We're going to want to cut the profits. But when cutting expenses, our aim is actually to cut 10% of your current expenses. What? No, that's a lot, right? Well, Mike's found that most of the time you can pretty much easily cut out like 10 to 20%. You can just off the top. You're probably overspending, or you're overspending, but you might be things that you don't even know that you're spending. Maybe you have a subscription program or something that you bought because it was one of the ideas you threw your money at and you thought, oh, this is going to work for me this time. Maybe that's just been coming out of your bank account and you don't even know it. So those are the kind of things that I'm going to tell you to teach you how to look for in a minute, right? So I know that we said that we need to take 3%, right, of the real revenue so that we can add that to the owner's pay, your profit, and your tax accounts. So why am I saying 10%? Let's talk about that. So why would we cut 10% when we only need to take 3% from those other accounts? Well, your expenses are not going to go away overnight. Even if you look and you find out, you can cut that 10 to 20%, it's not necessarily going to be something that you can do right this instant. It could be something where you have 3 payments left. It could be something like that where you have a few more months until you can actually cut back. So the more we can target, the more to cut back on over that 3%, it's going to give you a little bit more wiggle room, right? And then your future allocation adjustments. So next quarter, because profit versus is not an event. We don't want profit to be an event in your business anymore. We don't want you to be like, oh, I made a profit today. No, we're building profit into the entire system, right? So just setting up your allocations and your day one percentages from the beginning of your business you're not done. We're going to do this every quarter until you reach those profit percentages that are in the book, the TAPs. And I do want to caution you. I see a lot of people just jump to the chart because it's a nice, pretty chart format. They pick the money range that they're either in or they want to be in, and they just dive in and they're trying to put those into practice in their business. They end up giving up on profit first and think that it doesn't work. Well, those are your goals, right? When you look at that chart, that's like 2 or 3 years from now. That's where that's going to be. That's not where we are now. So we always want to look at where are you now? Let's move those percentages around. But the fun thing is every quarter, we're going to adjust that 3% again. So you're going to take another 3% from your operating expense account and move it to the profit, owner's pay, and tax, right? But that money's got to come from somewhere. So in the beginning, if we go ahead and we're already aiming to cut that 10%, that gives you wiggle room later on. You're not having to continue to do this process over and over and over again, right? We also want to be prepared for bounce back. So have you ever made a decision in your business and you're like, oh, I don't really need that thing. Maybe it's your software that you're using for calendar. So here's an example I had. So I had an alignable, I think that's the name of it. No, that's not the right one. Anyway, so I was using this calendar company and then I switched to a different one that I liked better. It's called Appointlet. But then I started my website with Wix and they use the other one as their thing. Anyway, the prices can be a little different. So if you've cut back on something, in some area, and then you realize that change is negatively affecting the business or that you need to switch back, that 10% gives you a little more wiggle room if you need to add in an expense that you've already cut thinking that you didn't need it. So that's why we want to have that 10% be our goal. Okay, so when my client Stacy started working with me, she was really concerned about this whole entire process of cutting the expenses. But I want you to realize there are 3 different kinds of expenses. And when you realize that and you go through the process with me, it makes it a lot easier for you to not be as worried about cutting these expenses. And not all expenses are created equal. Expenses that you're currently paying on your business, they can be put into 3 different categories. So we're going to put those into profit generating, necessary, but we can replace them with maybe lower fees or a different product. Maybe you can contact them and maybe they'll work with you on the price. And unnecessary expenses. So those are the ones that they're not driving profit at all. They're not helping you run your business. Those are things that you can just cut and get rid of just immediately. How do we evaluate our expenses? What are we going to do? We're going to print out a list of the last 12 months. And you can go through your bank statements if you wanted to do that, or if you're using accounting software, it's really easy to pull a report inside of your accounting software that's going to give you those months, and then you can go through and you can just put P if it's something that is profit generating, R if it's something that you can replace, and U if that's an unnecessary expense that we're just going to cut out of the business, right? So we're going to start, once we have that all laid out and you've marked all of the transactions, and you can even do that in Excel, that'd be super easy. Like if you went to your online banking and you pulled the transactions for the entire 12-month period into Excel, you could just sort it by name and you would have batches of those names over and over again. That would be probably the easiest way, I think, to do this for you. So we're going to start, once you've done that, you put P, R, or U next to the expenses for all of the ones for the year. We're going to start just by cutting U. We're going to cut the unnecessary expenses just straight away. You're going to cancel those services. You're going to call them, tell them not to charge your card anymore. And that will just feel like such a great relief to you in the beginning. Because even I find for me, when I was doing this process, even if it's like $20 or $30, that adds up over time. And so that's a really good feeling if you're cutting $10, $20, $30 things. And if you have ones that you can cut that are bigger, that's even better, of course, right? That's way better. Next, you're going to move on to those R expenses, and you're going to renegotiate those. You're either going to find another service provider that does the same thing at a lower cost, or you're going to call your current service provider and ask them to give you a discount and see if they'll work with you on that. And then you're going to leave those P expenses alone, because if they're profit generating, we really want to have those in our business. Those are the ones, maybe it's the software that you buy for your clients. I just want to caution you, if it's something like that where you're providing tech to your clients, you want to make sure that you've built that into your pricing so that you're not eating the cost on that. Your client, that should be part of the package that you've created for them so that those costs are covered for you and you're not becoming poor and going into debt trying to provide this service. Will this be easy? Is this an easy process? No, it's not. I would say there's you're going to have a lot of growing pains just because you're changing the entire way that we've been taught to think about money in relation to your business. Again, we have that equation, right? We normally, with accounting, it's sales minus expenses, but we're focused on expenses then. So we're changing that to sales minus profit. And then we were going to want to run the business with whatever's left. And it's such a freeing thing, because all of a sudden, now you've gone from your family's frustrated with you because all you do is spend all your time working and not have anything to show for it, to now you have money to maybe take them out to dinner, maybe do something special once in a while because you have that money that's growing in your profit account. Plus you're growing a profitable business at the same time. You're putting money into your own pocket because you're actually finally paying yourself. So all of those things are really important goals that we have to keep in mind when we're going through this process, because while cutting some of the expenses is going to be easy and quick, there is psychological pain that happens when we're going through this process, and it's totally normal. So try to keep that in mind. It's so much easier at this point where we're at to cut those expenses than it would be to try to generate new sales to cover those expenses. So we want to kind of get out of that cycle where we panic, try to make sales to cover the money, and just really take a hard look at, can I cut these expenses, as we just talked about with the different categories. That's going to help you a lot. Because instead of just looking at your list and not knowing what to do, now you have a plan that you can put into place for how you're going to handle each of those expenses that come up. And you can do this, okay? And if at any time it feels like just too overwhelming, please give yourself permission just to take a step back and take a breath, walk away from it for a day or two, and then come back to it. And you could even do, if you just wanted to do all of the profit generating things, if you just wanted to go through and mark those the first day, Just make it however it's going to be simple for you, but don't let it go so long that you're not reaching your goal because you let it slip. So while you have the momentum, so I would do it, over a 3-day process if you're going to do it by category. I think that would make it a little bit easier on you without killing your momentum. All right, so like Stacy, you're cutting expenses with that bigger goal in mind, which I always jump ahead of my slides. The goal of building profit-generating business is rather than one that keeps you poor. And you're going to hear me say this over and over again. We want to keep you out of entrepreneurial poverty, which is what Mike calls it, because we've seen, as advisors, we've seen so many businesses that's just where they are. And they think it's normal because that's what they've always experienced. So we want to flip that. We're going to flip that on its head, and we're going to help you build a business that's profitable. So run your business on what you can afford today so that you can continue to be in business tomorrow. That is really, really where I want your head at when you're thinking about these processes. I don't want you to be overspending, thinking I have to do this, spending to get more later, because it's more important to put the money in your pocket now. And as you go, if you need to add things, you'll have a better idea of what you can add. And one of the things I just want to throw in here real quick too, I knew for a really long time that I needed to raise my rates. But I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how much I needed. I didn't know how did that look inside my business. And you might be in the same boat too, because I think pricing is one of the biggest things. I think I've been to every pricing webinar on value pricing and different things that you can imagine. I think I've been to every single one of them. And really, Profit First opened up my eyes to what I actually should be doing. So with my profit assessment, I realized I was taking out more money than what the business was generating. And this is what that looked like. So money would come in because I charge all my clients at the beginning of the month, and then I do their work over the course of the month. Money would come in. I'd take what I thought I needed for my personal bills, and then I would run the business with what was left. But when I did that profit assessment, and if you've done yours yet, you'll see that first off, it doesn't add up to 100% when you're doing it, because we're evaluating your history for where you are now, and most of us were not really doing this right. So in my case, it was like 110% was going out. And what does that mean? Where's this extra 10% come from? Well, I was probably spending money that was already business money that was already in the account. I was probably, when I would look to see, I can draw some money, I wasn't necessarily being discriminate because all that money was in that big pot together. It was hard to tell if something was money from a prior period or whatever. So just keep that in mind. On my end, I actually increased my expenses a little bit. So I cut the expenses, like we talked about, the unnecessary ones, and renegotiated what I could. But then I realized by scaling myself back to a profit level that is more reasonable, I was able to spend money on advertising, a little money on coaching, things that help me bring more value to my clients and charge more. And then the other eye-opening thing that I noticed was, if I tell you I'm going to do work for $200, I can really, as a business owner, only count on half of that being my money. So I think that the psychological thing happens when you go in and you are negotiating with somebody, and maybe especially if you have money issues yourself, you're kind of undercutting yourself anyway, but you're like double undercutting yourself if you're thinking, oh yeah, I need to make $200, but you really need $200 for you. So now what you've done is you've given yourself $100 when you needed $200. So going through this process made me realize, like, oh my gosh, so what I need to fix is charging double what I've been charging because I've been undercutting myself. And let me know if that sounds familiar to you. And if you're watching the replay, just you can comment during the replay as well, and I will get back to you guys. I'll take a look after the video is posted. I know most people do watch the replay. I think someone's here right now, but I can't see who you are because I'm using StreamYard right now. So if you have any questions, please do ask in the group. I am working on a ton of content for you guys, so I'm so excited about that. There's going to be a boot camp coming out. There is, next week, I'm having a training for you. I'm going to talk about what you can do if you can't open new bank accounts because with COVID-19, maybe you can't go into the bank, maybe your country's not letting you have the access like you would normally be able to go in and sit down with someone for an hour and open up all of your accounts. I'm going to give you a tool that can help you with that. And also just keep an ear out. There's going to be a lot more information coming your way. So thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.